When you start Adobe After Effects, normally the first thing that you see is this window, the home window. And on the home window, you have a number of options. For example, you can go to this Learn tab, and you can have access to some of the tutorials that Adobe have prepared for you to learn more about Adobe After Effects. You also have access to these two buttons over here. The first one is the New Project button that allows you to start a new project. And you also have the Open Project button, which allows you to start working on the projects that you have created before. So let's go ahead and click on the new project so we can create our new project and start from scratch. The first thing that you want to do after creating a new project in After Effects is to create a new composition. A composition is something similar to a container. Every After Effects project can have one or more compositions. You will learn about compositions later on in this video series. So now let's go ahead and click on New Composition so that we can create our first composition. This is the composition settings window. And here you can change the settings of the composition that you would like to create. So let me go ahead and start by changing the name of the composition. So I call it My First Comp. And then you will see that you have access to a number of options down here. For example, you can change the width and the height of the composition that you want to create. You can think of this as the width and the height of the video that you want to create. So right now it's the width is 1920 pixels by 1080. And that is the standard size for high definition televisions. But of course, you can change the size of the composition or the video by just bringing the mouse cursor over here and then clicking and dragging left or right to increase or decrease the size of the composition. We can also change the frame rate of the composition or the video. The frame rate actually defines the speed at which the video will play. Unless you're working on special projects that require a specific size or frame rate, I suggest that you stick to standard sizes and frame rates. If you click on the preset drop-down menu over here, you will have access to a range of these different standards. For example, you can select from HDV standards, HDTV standards, and also Ultra HD standards. I recommend that you keep this on HDTV 1080-25, which means high definition television, 1080 in size, and then 25 frames per second. So if you click on this, as you can see, the size changes to 1920 pixels on the width, 1080 pixels on the height, and then the frame rate will be adjusted at 25 frames per second. Aside from these, we can also adjust the duration of the composition. If you look at here, you will see that the duration right now is adjusted at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. But of course, we can change this. What you should note is that the first number here refers to the number of hours. The second number is actually minutes. Then the third number is seconds. And the last number refers to the number of frames. So right now it is adjusted at 3 minutes and 40 seconds, but if you want, we can change this. So I will go ahead and change this to 1 minute and 0 seconds. And that will adjust the duration of the composition at 1 minute. We will see this when I create this composition. Please remember that you can also change all these composition settings later on, and later in this video series you will actually learn about changing the settings after you have created them. But for now, let's go ahead and click OK in order to create the composition. So now the composition is created, and if you look at the project panel, you will see that the composition that we just created, which is called my first comp, now appears on the project panel. And if you pay attention to the timeline, you will see that the duration of the composition is now 1 minute. If later on you would like to change the settings of the composition, you can easily go here on the project panel, click on the composition, and then go to the composition menu and click on the composition settings option. And as soon as I click on that, as you can see, I will go back to the composition settings. So please remember that you can change the composition settings anytime you want. In the next video, we will look at the interface of Adobe After Effects, and we will become familiar with the most important parts of After Effects interface.